Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to this webinar titled Roadmap to Sustainable Aviation Futures, MENA. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Harry, the Event Director for Sustainable Aviation Futures, MENA. Sustainable Aviation Futures hosts a global series of high-level aviation decarbonisation conferences, bringing together the entire value chain to network, connect, and discuss the capabilities for scaling sustainable solutions to reach net zero by 2050. This hour-long webinar looks to discuss the opportunities and ambitions for the Middle East and North Africa region to accelerate opportunities for sustainable aviation futures, with a particular focus on the necessity for policy, production capabilities for SAF and power to liquid, and the opportunities to adapt infrastructure in the region. And with that, I would like to hand over to today's moderator, Emmanuel Bianco, who is the Programme Officer at IRENA. Thank you very much.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, Harry, for the introduction. My name is Emanuele Bianco. I'm Program Officer in IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, and I personally followed everything that is happening regarding green hydrogen, a topic that is definitely one of the topic of the hour now regarding the energy transition. I am very happy and very glad to moderating this panel with quite a series of experts. And without further ado, I will immediately ask them one question. And please, fellow panelists, introduce yourself while answering this first question so that the attendees can also understand what you do and what's your role in the sustainable aviation fuel sector. So we are obviously at the end of the COP28 and we had the CAF3. And I would like to ask you what are for you some of the key takeaways from these conferences, and in particular what you would like to see as a post COP28 agreement, and how these conferences are impacting the market, the sector of sustainable aviation. Starting from what I see on the screen, I will ask Andres to start first.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for being here today in our webinar. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Andres Felipe Guzman. I am currently leading the research in aviation at CAPSAR. And for those people who don't know what CAPSAR does, CAPSAR is a think tank within global energy economics and sustainability, providing research and advisory services to entities and authorities in the Saudi energy ecosystem. With my colleagues at CAPSAR, we are working on several initiatives for the future of energy, including transport. Emmanuel, thank you very much for this question. And about these events, the recent events about the COP28 and also the CAF3, I think the CAF was very productive because we can already have seen that the different countries has agreed to start to scale up the SAF production, and also yes, we all know that the SAF, the penetration is very low right now, and they also agreed to increase the production and to scale up the production and to provide a target with the 5% by 2030. And this is quite interesting because aviation, and we will start to see several changes in the aviation sector to scale this production. It's not only from the production side, but also it's from the consumption. And for consumption, I mean the airlines and also the incentives and also the different stakeholders in the aviation. And this is one interesting thing because aviation is very complex. And as I said, we have several stakeholders, like the different technologies, the different countries. We have also regulations, incentives. So this is, as I said before, the scale up of up to 5% will be very important. But to achieve this target, we will need to integrate all these different stakeholders with different commonalities to provide this 5%. This is not maybe only a recipe that we can apply in all the regions, in all the countries. But yeah, we need to start to create these important targets in each region, each country. So about the COP28, what are the main takeaways about the COP28? So the COP28 is finishing, and I attended the COP28, an impressive event with many sessions, many discussions. And one interesting thing is how the different countries are doing things, not only in transport, but in other sectors. But even if we are talking about only aviation or only transport, other agreements, other discussions about the future of energy are also providing inputs for the transport sector. So, and as the COP is finishing today, we don't have the final results, the final outcomes of the COP28. So maybe in the next few days, we will check how is the different agreements and the consensus between the different parties. And also that I noted in the event, it's very difficult to agree with many people from the different countries on the different regulations, on the different takeaways. So yeah, we will start to see how the COP28 will impact the aviation industry. So back to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you. And then I will ask Dr. Ahmad Al-Harbi to continue introducing himself and answering the same question, please.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ahmad Al-Harbi, and I'm actually a board member in the Saudi Space and Aviation Sciences Association, and I consider myself to be an aviation sustainability advocate, hoping to implement and accelerate the implementation of sustainability within the entire supply chain of the aviation industry. So to elaborate on what my fellow Andres already mentioned, I believe that there is a very significant effort in implementing the sustainability and enabling the sustainable aviation fuels in the industry. This is actually what has been known and noticed during the last few weeks when we had the CAAF, the third edition here in Dubai, and also we had the COP28. There is also a very obvious consensus at the global scale that needs to be all the countries come together to develop and implement these new technologies and also create some sensible framework in which these new technologies can be implemented at the global level. Back to the issue here that reflects the importance of the region, having had that the third edition of the CAAF hosted actually in this region and also the COP28. This actually reflects the importance and the efforts coming from the highest level of these countries, the leaders of these countries, to implement and enable sustainability and sustainable aviation fuel in the industry. I believe there will be a very promising future in the region in terms of implementing the sustainable aviation fuel productions and level up these technologies. This is going to be a tough road, but I think we can do this together with all partners around the world. And I think my country, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is already doing a lot of efforts in terms of enabling this efforts. As mentioned by His Excellency, the General Authorities of Civil Aviation in the CAAF, he mentioned that there is a lot of initiatives already ongoing and some of them already established to enable the sustainability in the industry in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and also collaborating with the fellow partners in the area. So yes, there is a promising future, of course, but there is a lot of challenges ahead. And I think we can also tackle them as we are coming together in very fruitful discussions that comes from the minds and brains of these people like this webinar. And back to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you. And then I will ask Mr. Al Mujaini to continue.
Thank you, Emmanuel, and good afternoon to everyone here from Dubai. Just to start up with introducing myself, I am Majid Al Mujaini. I have been the UAE CORSIA focal point since 2018. as well as the UAE TAB Technical Advisory Body member, the ICAO, since 2019. I led various projects here within the aviation domain, and I'm still continuing that role. We were part as well of the CAF 3 here in Dubai. I think with putting a magnifying lens on the outcome of the CAF 3 to the successful event of CAF 3, actually, we congratulate the ICAO and all of the stakeholders who played a vital role in delivering the great outcome of it. Today, what CAF 3 outcome present to whole aviation industry is a mid-term goal. Everyone have already pledged toward the aviation net zero by 2050, including here in the United Arab Emirates. Today, we have a mid-level goal, which is the 5% of emission reduction by 2030. Noting that the major contributor toward the worldwide aviation emission is the fuel. So this will put a big incentive for the fuel SAF producers to accelerate their production plans, as well as the SAF consumers to start their investment within the SAF, be it the production as well as the uplift and consuming. I believe that outcome will as well emphasize a lot of worldwide governments to introduce policies that incentivize SAF and recognizing its great emission reduction. I believe today there are a number of mandates that are imposed on aviation industry worldwide with the outcome of SAF, with the initiatives from the industry, different players. These mandates will be able to be achieved since the major challenge today, the supply of the SAF, and this will continue until major players jump into the market of SAF and the production scales up rapidly to meet the demand. I believe the outcome will, with that outcome, we will see a lot of better future within the aviation industry, a lot of contribution and collaboration between the aviation stakeholders, be it airports, airlines, fuel producers, delivery, and as well airport services. This is what I hope to see more in the future, collaboration, cooperation, more. With that, I go back to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you. And welcome to Mr. Alejandro Rios Galvan. And I will then ask you to conclude this first question, introducing yourself and talking about the key takeaways from COP28 CAF 3.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, and good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all. Sorry for the slight delay. I had a few technical problems logging on to the platform. But my name is Alejandro Rios. I am the director of the Sustainable Bioenergy Research Consortium at Khalifa University of Science and Technology, and a chief research scientist at the university. I have been working in the sustainable aviation fuel space for the last 15 years. And it is certainly an interesting time that we are witnessing now, because it is now taking center stage, the production of these fuels, as was witnessed during the CAF 3 meeting here in Dubai, where there was an agreement that was posted by a number of all of the countries that assisted, and it's a significant achievement to have been able to reach this agreement. It is a midterm goal for sure, but and as Majid pointed out, we're moving towards the long-term goal of net zero for 2050. If we don't have these intermediate goals, it will be very difficult to do that. As for COP28, it has been, even though aviation is not part of the COP process, it was certainly also very interesting to be able to assist to many different events that were held during COP28, and to see the interest of people in continuing to develop the sustainability in general. And of course, aviation is not a stranger to this, and so we will continue to work to make sure that we can decarbonize aviation. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you so much. And I will continue with you, Alejandro, because I heard that there are recent announcement of the Center for Renewable and Advanced Fuel Technology for Aviation, or aircraft for short. And I would like to ask you to elaborate and explain to the attendees these recent announcements and what's next after these announcements.
Thank you, Manuel. Yes, we were very happy to announce during the COP3 meeting the strategic collaboration agreement that was signed by 8 entities, announcing the Center for Renewable and Advanced Fuel Technologies for Aviation, which will be known as aircraft. We have many different stakeholders already involved. We have Etihad Airways, we have Emirates, we have ADNOC, the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, we have the Emirates National Oil Company, ENOC as well. We have the Boeing Company, one of the largest aircraft manufacturers in the world. We have Mazda Green Hydrogen as well. We have Honeywell, which is an American company that has many different efforts in the SAF space. And of course, Khalifa University of Science and Technology is part of aircraft as well. The signing of the agreement was witnessed by the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, who is the head of the National Committee for Low Carbon and Sustainable Fuels for the Aviation Sector here in the UAE, as well as by the Ministry of Economy, who is the head sector for the General Civil Aviation Authority, whose Director General was also a witness at the signing of the Strategic Collaboration Agreement. And so we are now going to set off and work for the next 6 months in finalizing the governance model for the center, and in getting approval of our strategic research agenda that we will be carrying out for the next 5 years. So this is a very exciting time. We will be working very hard to make sure that we have the right conditions to enable the sustainable aviation fuel industry to establish itself here in the UAE and, of course, in the wider MENA region. Thank you.
And indeed, the MENA region is important for the SAF aviation industry, because the jet fuel consumption is projected to double by 2050. And I wonder how sustainable production pathways can diversify the production of sustainable fuels. So I would like to ask to check my curiosity with Mr. Al-Mujaini first.
On the topic of the SAF production here within the region, I mean, I don't want to draw a negative image at the beginning, because I just mentioned that we have come from a very successful COP3, but we have to be realistic and understand the limitation within the region when it comes to the SAF production. This presents a major challenge, especially to meet the demand. Today, the feedstock that's required for the SAF can either be biosourced or from the waste or from the power to liquid here. Different region would have different way of producing SAF as well as the methodologies. All of them are adopted under the ICAOs. But again, to scale up this production to a commercial level, it is... sorry, I think I have heard someone. Okay. In order to scale up the SAF production here in the region, we have to look into the potentials of SAF production, such as power to liquid could be a very promising source, hydrogen or waste to power as well. It's a promising area. There has been multiple successful projects in the United Arab Emirates of producing SAF. Dr. Alejandro can elaborate on that as well. But it's all great steps toward the future. I think the remaining challenge, as I mentioned before, and I will continue mention that until we reach to a real bigger scale of SAP production meets the demands of current operation that's commercially viable, this will remain the hot topic until that day.
Thank you. And Andres, do you concur? Do you have some additional insights on this topic?
Yes. Thank you, Emmanuel, for the opportunity to address this question too. I want to start by giving some numbers about aviation, because always we are saying that aviation or the fuel consumption is projected to double by 2050. And I think aviation is of great importance. The aviation reached its peak in 2019 with approximately 24,500 aircraft and transporting around 4 billion passengers. It means that aviation is expected to continue to grow. And also, this is important because also not only the demand, but also the aircraft is also expected to double in the next 20 years. It means that we need to improve the aircraft. We need to change technology if we want to reduce emissions, and also we will need to scale up the production. But the main challenge here is the cost, because if we want to scale up the production of SAF, the cost will be an important thing. So if you try to combine the production, the production of the sustainable aviation fuels with the technology, maybe we can start to create a consensus between the demand and between the supply, because we will not pass this price or this cost to the consumer. And this is key, maybe in the challenge to scale up the production of SAF. And also about the different, as you say, the different pathways for the aviation. It's important to note that aviation is a hard-to-abate sector. So there are many difficulties in finding alternative energy sources. If we can see, for instance, what happened in the cars, it was very easy because you can electrify the cars. But in aviation, it's so different, yeah? So for instance, but even if this is different, and also I wanted to highlight something that is happening, and not only in the region, but around the world, we have several possibilities to address this problem, yeah? To increase also the pathways, the production, we can consider different pathways. We can consider, for instance, the low carbon aviation fuel is something that is maybe important, as my previous panelists said. This is important maybe for the region, for the MENA region, because as he said, this is different in some regions because the feedstock availability. So we can take the advantage of the low carbon aviation fuel. We have also the sustainable aviation fuels. As my panel said before, there are difficulties for biofuels, but maybe we have more opportunities to work in e-fuels, in synthetic fuels, We can use maybe other possibilities in the regions, using maybe the possibilities in the existing refineries to create these possibilities of e-fuels. And there are several pathways. This is also something important because I said before, even if this is a hard-to-abate sector, we have several pathways. And also maybe something important in the region, and also I know that the UAE and Qatar are working, is about carbon capture and storage and utilization. This is key also to address this problem, and we will increase also the production of the different alternative fuels. I think, and then my conclusion is that even if we have several alternatives, the result will depend on the country, of the regional considerations, and the cost will be very important for scale up the production. And if we can scale up the production, we will have different opportunities for all the different alternatives. And I back to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you. And I wonder if the fellow panelist wants to continue after answering this question, if you have any suggestion, ideas, insights. Alejandro?
Thank you.
I think Ahmad has a comment as well. So please, Ahmad, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Alejandro. Thank you, Emmanuel. I think, my fellow panelists already pointed to the main aspects and the very important points. I think just a very specific area I would like to introduce here about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And they already realized the importance of the diversification of the sustainable production pathways. Given that we already have the world's largest oil company, Saudi Arabian oil company, well known as Aramco, they've been trying to actively engage in very critical investment when it comes to sustainable aviation fuel. One of them is already done through a joint venture with UPM Biofuels, in which they already investing to produce and production quantities advanced biofuels already derived from wood-based biomass. Another great example from Aramco also that they already had a joint venture, Satrop, in which a couple months ago, they already been successful to introduce the sustainable aviation fuel derived from the used cooking oil. And that's something really important because it was the first in the region to establish this and get certified through the international standard, international sustainability and carbonization and carbon certification. So this is something really important because the context here is very important when we are trying to discuss the implementation and the adaptation of the sustainable aviation fuel, comparing almost 500,000 ton of sustainable aviation fuel now in operation versus more than 3 million ton of jet fuel derived from fossil fuel. That's really represent less than 0.5% of the operational fuel in the industry. So yes, there is a need to diversify all these pathways and also come to scale up production of these different types of SAF. And I think already my fellow panelists already covered that answers in their elaborations. Thank you so much. Back to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you. This one, Alejandro, do you have anything to add?
Well, I just want to say that the region is characterized by a lack of fresh water, also by a lack of arable or fertile land. And so it is incredibly challenging to produce the bio-based fuels here in this region, in the entire MENA region. And therefore, we need to look at the pathways that will enable us to produce sustainable aviation fuel at scale. However, before reaching sustainable aviation fuel at scale, something that will be a pathway that will be very important for the region will be the pathway of low carbon aviation fuels. That is, those fuels that are fossil based, but that have a lower carbon intensity than conventional aviation fuel. As we know, the baseline that has been determined is 89 grams of CO2 equivalent per megajoule for the conventional aviation fuel. And in order for any fuel to qualify as a CORSIA eligible fuel, it must reduce by 10% at least from this baseline. So that means that any fuel that is 80.1 grams of CO2 equivalent per megajoule or lower will be a CORSIA eligible fuel. Now, the region has specifically UAE, Saudi Arabia, has the capacity to produce low carbon aviation fuels. And there have been a number of significant investments that are being made both by the ADNOC, by the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, as well as by Saudi Aramco, to make sure that there is a lowering of the carbon intensity of these fuels. And so low carbon aviation fuel will be the lowest hanging fruit. And every gram that we're able to save and to reduce from the conventional aviation fuel is a gram in the right direction. And so, I think that the production of LCAF will come first as we start ramping up for the production of SAF. In this particular region of the world, yes, there is used cooking oil, but the quantities of used cooking oil that are available locally are very low. And the quantities as well, even though these countries are characterized by being the countries that produce most municipal solid waste on a per capita basis, the amount of municipal solid waste is also limited. And so, for example, if we were to be able to produce or to take all of the municipal solid waste and produce sustainable aviation fuel from it, we would only be able to produce approximately 5% of the demand of jet fuel that exists today in the UAE. And so it is a significant challenge, and this very clearly points to where we need to focus our efforts, which is in the production of these lower carbon intensity fuels via industrial gases, via the production of hydrogen, low carbon intensity hydrogen, as well as via, as Andres mentioned, carbon capture, utilization, and storage for the production of synthetic gas. And then from there, via different pathways that need to be, all of these pathways are already being worked on at commercial levels in other parts of the world. But we need to work through those here so that we can start producing sustainable aviation fuel, and hopefully enable the lowering of costs via the optimization of the different pieces of these pathways and the synergies that may be obtained by working through the production of these fuels. I'll leave it here so that we can continue the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's good to know all the possible pathways and all the barriers that exist, because we should remember that there are if we don't have enough stuff today, there is a reason behind it. And it's important to remember that the market can be moved by determined regulation, by policies, targets. And I would like to know more about the policies that should be enacted. So starting from Mr. Al-Harbi, can I ask you what opportunity exists in the region, but also globally, if you wish, in order to incentivize or regulate the decarbonization of the aviation sector?
Thank you, Emmanuel. I think, just want to thank Dr. Alejandro for the very well said statement about the diversification of the pathways for sustainable aviation. As long as the incentivization goes for the technology, I think, and also regulate the decarbonization. I think first and foremost, it's going to be the carbon capture and credits, in which we already have a very a huge market here that established by the Public Investment Fund, PIF, in which already Aramco already purchased most of the credits. And this reflects the intention and the approach of the government here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in which to incentivize the sustainability efforts of the companies and also the private sectors moving towards more sustainable aviation fuel, and also moving towards more sustainable practices and products in the general. So one of the available, I believe, one of the available schemes is already going to be the credits, but also there are other ideas or approaches could be considered as well. One of which could be establishing partnerships in which the government also invest in the new technology and taking care of those huge investments that requires a lot of capital from the private sectors as well. Given the fact that the region is already well established in terms of the fossil oil industry, and also having reserves in terms of cash flow, I believe a combination of these approaches or schemes could be very beneficial, at least in the midterm goals, to meet such objectives. And I think maybe some of other points could be elaborated from my fellow panelists here. Thank you. Back to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you. And I want to check if anyone from the panel want to say something else about how to incentivize and regulate decarbonization in the sustainable aviation fuels. Otherwise, we can move to the next question.
If you allow me, Manuel, as well, to add a bit of an operational kind of touch into this, decarbonization of aviation, it is, yes, it's difficult, but it is achievable in different area of the aviation sector. If we look at it as a horizontal kind of supply chain of our entire aviation sector, we find multiple players there. starting from the airports, from the airlines, from the technology that involve, from even the airport operations, all the way up to the air navigation services. So until all of these parties speak up together and start to synchronize their efforts, it will be difficult to decarbonize, because today you might have the full-on SAF flights with all the route optimizations and everything, and due to some certain airport operation reasons, you're being grounded or for quite some time, or you took a longer taxiways. So these all contribute toward your overall emissions across the year, like overall emission. So all of these parties shall contribute throughout a more of kind of a state or a national policy level that incentivize aviation sector toward decarbonizing, putting a percentage cap. It is good to give a goal or a northern pole star toward every stakeholder to work to achieve, but as well, it is more, I think the golden word here is to collaborate, to cooperate and understand and start this conversation now. 2050 might sound late, but now we have a mid-level goal of 2030. That's already 7 years from now. Until we all work together to achieve collaborative targets, it will be difficult to decarbonize. But once that's overcome, I think we will see a lot of great projects, a lot of great initiatives in the region and worldwide that creates a real aviation emission reduction, as well as the decarbonization of the aviation sector.
Thank you. If any other panelists wants to jump in on the possible.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I think we have seen, we're seeing examples around the world in terms of, in the European Union, for example, there have been a number of mandates that have been established that are, being set on the producers of fuel for them to comply with a specific percentage of their production to be either SAF, or in some cases, they are actually even detailing what type of SAF it must be, right? In the European Union, they've already also established a percentage of the percentage to be that has to come from power to liquids, or from these electrofuels that are being produced via the low carbon intensity electricity and carbon capture. Whereas in the US, they are using an incentive-based scheme, right? They are giving subsidies so that the producers are able to in a way level the cost or arrive at a price that is appropriate. And so I think that every region around the world must take the approach that is best suited for the region, and because not every country has the same conditions with which to work with. And so we must be careful so that we don't create essentially distortions in the market, and that we are able to make sure that the right policies are put in place, so that the industry in each of these locations is able to flourish and to move forward in the best way possible. We have a gargantuan challenge in front of us. We need, by the estimates of IATA and other organizations, we need to be producing close to 450 billion liters of SAF by year 2050, whereas currently the production is somewhere around 300 million liters. Now, in the coming years, there will be a number of capacity installations, or a number of plants that are going to be coming online, but we need to increase the production of SAF, and we need to increase the infrastructure, the built infrastructure, so that we're able to produce these fuels in a much larger scale.
It's great. Your answer made me realize another question that I would like to ask you. This was not something we discussed, but if every region needs its own system, and we have basically have, correct me if I'm wrong, two main group of policies: the sticks, quotas, targets, and so on, and the carrots, like in the US case, the support scheme. For the region, for the MENA region, do you believe, and maybe we have also to distinguish between Middle East and North Africa, do you believe that is the stick approach or the carrots approach the things that we need, a mix of it, how much quotas in particular are important? This is a question for all the panelists.
I don't want to sound in any way negative, but in my view, it's very difficult for us to have a stick approach if there is no production of fuel, right? This is the type of distortion that I was referring to. The government may come and say we're going to establish a mandate of 2%. But if there's no way to reach that 2%, then you're starting to create this distortion where the airlines or the aircraft operators are going to have to go and seek for products somewhere else. And then the sustainability aspect of it is going to be put in question. And so again, we need to be very careful and we need to work in conjunction with the regulators, with the authorities, and the industry so that we are able to establish the right combination of policy. So at first, specifically in this region of the world, I just don't see a stick approach as the right one. Perhaps something more along the lines of incentives might work, but also incentives are truly more appropriate for areas of the world where they have a lot of private industry participating. And so here, with the national oil companies as being major players, the incentive approach is also not really appropriate. And so we need to make sure that there are, the necessary conditions in place so that we are able to establish the right policy framework. Now, having said this, it is important to point out that in this region of the world, a significant effort is being made to decarbonize not only the aviation sector, but the entire economy. And by that, I mean, the operations of the oil and gas companies are being, slowly, their carbon intensity is being lowered. But also there are a number of investments that are being made in terms of hydrogen production, in terms of other renewable energy infrastructure, and these are investments that are being made at a higher level, if you will. And the argument that we're trying to make is that please don't forget about aviation, because the aviation sector, for example, here in the UAE is a very large sector. It represents approximately 13.3% of the GDP. So this is why the suggestion for aircraft was put forward, right? So that even though these large-scale investments in hydrogen, large-scale investments in renewable energy are being made, let's make sure that we concentrate and we're able to focus on what the aviation industry needs, because this is going to be a very big part of the equation.
Okay, thank you. If no one wants to follow up, I then move actually a question about the latest generation of aircraft. So I would like to ask Imad Al-Harbi if he can elaborate on what will the latest generation of aircraft will be looking like, and what technology enhancement we should expect. So how this technology enhancement may increase the sustainability of the sector.
Thank you, Emmanuel, for the question. I think the future technologies in the airplane, especially for the passengers airplane, is going to be significant and it's going to be very creative. The main focus basically comes from the technology needs to be injected into the jet engines manufacturing. So a lot of global players like Pratt & Whitney, for example, and Rolls-Royce in UK, they are trying really to push a lot of efforts in which they are testing new generations of jet engines that are capable to operate and consume the new sustainable aviation fuel and reduce significantly the emissions emitted from that jet engines. Given that part of the technology, of course, there will be also technology in terms of the aerodynamics and the design itself. With the introduction and of the advanced air mobility like AAM and the urban air mobility, we are seeing a huge demand for this sustainable transportation type of aviation in which the passengers will be commuting for short distances within the urban parts of the town and the cities. This is also very important, and I think this at some point down the line will be expanded to accommodate larger airplanes or larger aircraft for to be for passengers between cities as well. There is a very optimistic outlook for this set forward by Airbus and also Boeing, in which at least I think by 2030 there will be a regional passenger airplane in which capable to be operate sustainable aviation fuel and also clean and capable to carry about 60 to 70 passengers between cities and within short range. So yes, there will be a huge and drastic changes for the technology right now. But this is also leave us with the current technology for the Airbus 350, for example, and also the Boeing 787, the Dreamliner. It already has the technology in which the efficiency of the operation of the aircraft and the performance will be enhanced, and you can feel the difference between the operation and the emissions from current generation of these aircraft and compared by previous generations like the Boeing 747, for example. And I give it back to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you. We have 5 minutes left, and we'd like to ask actually a question that is coming from the Q&A to everyone here included. So we discussed about hydrogen-based sustainable aviation fuels, and of course the question here may be what kind of low carbon hydrogen will be suitable for sustainable aviation fuels. We, in particular in the region has the potential for both producing, allow me the color coding, green and blue hydrogen. However, and this is my perspective, green hydrogen will be available later in time, possibly when sustainable aviation fuels will be needed. So it's not that trivial to thinking about what kind of low carbon hydrogen will be will be more likely to be used, in your opinion, to produce sustainable aviation fuels. So I don't know, do you have any perspective, or do you believe that once the cost of green and blue hydrogen will become the same, then sustainable aviation fuel may be produced by the same, by both pathways? What's your opinion on this? Asking to everyone.
I think that we all need to be very aware that at the end of the day, it will depend on the life cycle emission analysis that is made, right? It doesn't matter if it's green, blue, purple, yellow, whatever it is. It has to be very low in carbon intensity. There are technology pathways that are being investigated and that will continue to be developed that may include current feedstocks that are used for something else. And so, of course, green hydrogen or the pathway for water electrolysis is very promising. However, there are, again, this region of the world doesn't have enough water, right? And so there are even though the requirements of water are not that high, it's still an issue. And currently, you need to go through a desalination process and then, the electrolysis process. And so, again, there is technology to be developed. And again, this is why I highlight the importance of research and development and the importance of in our case, of aircraft, because we believe that performing these R&D activities will be essential for us to continue and to find ways of lowering the costs of these low carbon intensity fuels as we move forward.
Any other take on green versus blue? I have to say one thing, otherwise I would make myself a disservice. Irina has just produced this Sunday the final report on water for hydrogen production. We assess the overall life cycle of hydrogen production. And actually, I have to say the water requirements for producing green hydrogen can be quite below the water requirements for blue hydrogen because of the cooling needs of the CCS process. This is not to say that we don't need water. You need still 20 liters of water, more or less, to produce green hydrogen outside, of course, the stoichiometric needs. But yes, water is an important issue, but perhaps green and blue hydrogen will not have to fight on their water efficiency. So if there are no follow-ups from the panel, then I would like to thank you all for participating in this discussion. It was, I believe, very fruitful. The discussion on sustainable aviation fuels, it's at the beginning, I believe, following the discussion we had on decarbonizing the hard-to-abate sectors, but we have to see changes happening, as many of you said at the beginning of this conversation. I look forward to see this conversation and look forward to see action from policymakers and the industry to make sure that also this last mile of the energy sector, the aviation sector, is also getting to decarbonization as fast as possible. So I would lead to the organizers of this event to say some final words.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Thank you, Alejandro, Majed, Dr. Ahmad, and Andres as well. And yes, thank you very much for the really interesting and insightful discussion as well. I think some really fantastic opinions shared there, and certainly some exciting developments and lessons learned, particularly from COP and CAF3 moving forward. As mentioned at the start of the program, this webinar has been run in conjunction and ahead of Sustainable Aviation Futures MENA, which is taking place at the Address Hotel Dubai Mall on the 12th to the 14th of February. For more information, please do visit www.safcongressmena.com, and please do feel free to reach out on any of the emails provided that you would have seen throughout, including the one on this slide just here. As I said, thank you very much to all of our speakers for today's participation. Some really valuable and insightful comments there, and please, I look forward to hopefully seeing more of you and listening to more as and when the months progress, and in February as well. So with that, thank you very much for your participation today, and yes, thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day.